Around 2007, my younger sister made a new friend at school, Joshua. He was a skinny, awkward kid, very shy. We were convinced that my sister was his only friend, but my parents hit it off with his, and we were always over his house. They lived in a small, dark townhouse at the edge of the neighborhood. Joshua's mother gave birth to another son shortly after my sister met Joshua. His name was David. As David got bigger, it was apparent that he was a lot more active and social, while Joshua grew to even be more awkward and distant, eventually developing an imaginary friend that would go by Toby. Joshua would be found in his room constantly talking to Toby at all hours of the day. This was brushed off as just a child's imagination, but one thing I noticed that always stuck with me was that whenever he spoke to Toby, he looked up. Once David was around 2 years old and running around, there was an incident where he punched Joshua in the face, making him instantly scream and cry for Toby, and then locking himself in his room. This began to happen more frequently, David pushing Joshua or throwing things at him, until one night around 3 a.m. when David screams at the top of his lungs, waking up the whole house. His parents run to his bed to see what was wrong and found 3 giant claw marks on his ribcage, still fresh and bloody. They ran to Joshua's room and found him in the corner of the room, shaking and crying and pleading. I begged Toby not to do it. The sweet childhood imagination was quickly getting dark. Joshua's dad was a photographer and invited us all one day to go over and take some family pictures. It was a nice day and we ate, thought nothing of it. But Joshua still kept getting skinnier and more distant. My sister rarely spoke to him at this point. Then days later we go over to see the end results of the pictures, and behind Joshua you could see a dark silhouette around 7 feet tall, and its hand resting on Joshua's shoulder. You can almost make out the horns. His dad was horrified and we left. Shortly after, they moved out of that townhouse. They told me that as they drove off, Joshua stared back at the house, crying, saying Toby wasn't happy. Weeks later, we went to their new house, and of course I asked Joshua how Toby was doing. He looks at me with a blank face responding, "Who's Toby?" I laughed. "Toby, your imaginary friend?" He's still confused, and he gets up. "I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never had an imaginary friend." And he runs off. And nothing came of it after that. It all seemed to be over. That is, until last week. Years had gone by, both Joshua and my sister now in high school. It was my sister's birthday, her 16th birthday, and my mom thought it'd be a good idea to call up Joshua and see how he's doing, and maybe invite him and his now older little brother David. The day of the party they came, and when the door opened to let them in, both Joshua and David were as thin as a rail, with bags under their eyes. His brother used to be so active and social, and now he was just as shy and awkward and closed off as Joshua. The party went on, but I couldn't keep my eyes off Joshua, because the entire fucking party, he just stood in the corner mumbling to himself, and the whole time, he just looked up.